who the favorites were.
KT roster.
네, 정말 길었던 연휴를
Thank you
드디어
very much,
마치고
guys. We are back after a very long break for the Lunar New Year. This is the 4th week for the LCK. This is Mina Kim, and we're going to be joined by Victory and Captain Jack for today's preview analyst desk. And this is Jason for the analyst desk translation. So how was your holidays? It was a long break, so I had a really great rest. So hopefully LCK players can also perform up to their form. You look shiny today. Yeah, I had some great rest. What about you, Vittori? Same as the fans, you know. I was really happy to have a really long break, but at the same time, I really wanted the LCK to be back, so I was waiting for today. I was so boring, actually. No LCK is no fun. I hope that we can see you guys often this week. So we had to roll back to like 2 weeks before. It's hard to memorize and remember all the things. Can you remember some of them? I had more like a week of break, so I can't really remember exactly. So I think we have to go through some highlights and have some reviews. Then let's check out the issues and highlights from last week. I think this was one of the biggest hype, the K-drama parody, LCK Castle. Those are the bloopers, I guess. And this one is Griffin on their 6 games winning streak. It was against Sandbox. Those were both undefeated teams, and Griffin was the one to pick up their 6 games winning streak. It was a really big match. The game was so stylish. Chovy on Kali, and he hit KDA 115. It was literally insane. And now let's check out this Kane over here. It was LCK's first Kane from Dread side on the FLICKR. He actually carried the game and was able to pick up the MVP over there. He didn't even die once in that game. So we're looking forward to seeing more Canes in LCK.
굉장히 좋다라는 얘기도 많은데
그 얘기 몇 년 전부터 있었어요.
재밌어요 참.
자, 소문만 무성한 가렌도 기다려보면서
Then we have to wait for Garen to pop up at LCK, the only champion that hadn't showed up yet. And we had the longest and also the shortest game in LCK last week on January 26th, Wednesday. The shortest game was with Hanwha Gaming versus Sandbox, and the longest game was with maybe a FLICKR versus GenG with 57 minutes and 26 seconds. So I think that means that we had some patches that maybe extending the game, but we have to still go through some new patches and check out will it affect the duration of the game.
꼭 인터넷으로 공개가 됐으면 메라님의 인권은 존중하지 않겠습니다.
아쉽게도 그때 캡정이 자리 없어가지고.
네, 맞아요.
I was really sad to miss Captain Jack in the LCK castle actually.
갔다 오신 거예요?
Well, I didn't have work on that day, so I wasn't able to show up.
굳이 안 왔다고요?
They actually called me, but I was like, I wasn't really feeling to show up in the parody video, so I wasn't there. So those were the issues from last week. So let's go through the standings. Griffin's still on first place, and Sandbox is on the second place.
초기 2주 동안 이제 만들어졌던 이 서브리그와 동브리그 간의 어떤 그
So
간격이라고
Griffin
할까요?
still really dominant so far. They only had one set loss. At the same time, Sandbox actually had a lot of 2-1 victories. So there's like 4 points difference between Griffin and Sandbox. So competition is really fierce. And also in the bottom side of the standings, and Kingzone is on their rise. They're on the 4th place, and they're on their winning streak also. So we'll be looking forward to seeing Kingzone today. Their performance against SK Telecom. However, it's really sad to see Hanwha Gaming down there. I think it's the opposite Kingzone Hanwha Gaming is, because Hanwha Gaming is now on their losing streak, and they're having their 4 matches lost, so they're on the bottom half of the standings. So these are the MVP standings. Clid is on the top. Clid has been on the interview stage a lot, right? So are you close friends with Clid now? No, not really. So let's check out Clid. His performance seems to be on point, and he has been getting MVPs on Kojix, Elise, Nocturne, and Listen. It's also interesting to see Ghost on the second place, because no one actually had expected him to perform so great right now. He's the Holy Spirit right now, but back in the days, no one could have seen this future. And also there's also rulers, so it's really interesting because a lot of people have been saying that there is no effect of AD carry players for all around the map, but actually Ghost and Ruler as an AD carry players are on the 2nd and 3rd place. So this is the KD standing up the top laners. Sword Summit seems pretty relevant to their standings, but Tall and Roach, unlike their standings of their team, but their performance in KDA seems really good. Those are the standings of Jungle KDA. Once again, Griffin, Tarzan is on the top place. I mean, all the 5 Griffin players are showing great KDA, and they're all on the 1st place. So except for the 1st and 2nd place players, actually the KDA doesn't really refers to the standings, to the team standings right away. Chovy with 42 KDA is on the 1st place. Chovy with insane KDA, he's still on the top place. And moving on to the bot lane, Viper. Well, Griffin players on the top place seems really obvious, but Zenit,
성적을 끌어올려야
and
되는데 조금씩
Nuclear.
뭔가
Those are the players from teams from the lower standings, but I think it's a really good sign that their damage dealers are performing well and showing great KDAs.
저런 부분에 저 선수들의 캐리력이 좀 잘 기대해봐야 될 것 같습니다.
네, 다음으로 서포터 라인.
And for the last, it's the support's KDA standings.
코이 선수.
네. 리엔즈 선수의 KDA는 사실
KDA of Blue Hands
높았는데
was
그
actually higher, but Ellis kind of ruined up everything.
저 가끔 꿈에 앨리스가 나와서 줄을 타더라고요.
I mean, Kim said the Ellis still pops up in her dreams, so it was really a big performance on Lens that day.
네, 이렇게 KDA 순위.
So those were the KDA standings of
지금까지
all 5 positions.
30초까지의 경기 얘기를 나눠봤고요.
네.
이제 다시 새로운 변화의
So
바람이
those
불어옵니다.
were the reviews.
정말 깜짝 놀랐어요.
And let's have a preview for this week.
이제 저희가
We're gonna be
공개를 해드릴 텐데요.
on
많은 분들
9.3
다시
patch.
한번 화면으로
So let's have a
보여드리겠습니다.
brief talk about the new patch here.
연휴 끝나서 SK 재개와 함께 이 9.3 패치로 변화된 경기를 보고 싶다.
네.
So new champion Silas will be available
네.
from today.
사용 가능하다는 소식.
It already showed up in NA LCS
해외 리그에서도 선보인 바
and also other foreign
지금
regions.
아주 안정성이 높은
So it doesn't seem to be a very stable champion, but we are still looking forward to seeing it on stage because it can pull off some unexpected plays from the players.
0%로
And there was also a big change in Aurelia. The passive and W has been changed, so it can be a hard matchup against AP champions from now on.
다른 활용도를 보여줘야 될것
So
같고.
moving on,
그리고 이렇게
top pick and ban rate champions are getting big nerfs. Akali, Aatrox, Camille, and Cassiopeia.
줄줄이 칼질을 많이 했어요.
갈 때가 됐다.
네.
Those are apparently a very tierless champion. A lot of people called it an OP.
다음 너프를 당했죠.
그렇죠.
But it can be a really a big sign for big sign for the players because all the OP champions are now down. So maybe we can expect some new champions to show up. But still, Lucian and Azrael seem really strong as well. And we can expect Aatrox and Science to still show up actually in the draft. However, a lot of champions are severely nerfed and there are very fatal changes. So there will be a lot of change in the draft and compositions.
관련 아이템들이 많이 부활을 했어요.
정말
And here we had a lot of new critical items or critical hit items changed, so we are expecting maybe some new Creed ADCs to be back in the games.
생존력이 굉장히 올라가거든요.
맞습니다.
그것 때문에 이제 암살자들이 좀 더 활약할 여지가 줄어들었고 원딜이
So I think this gives them more possibility for the AD carry players to survive longer and less assassin to show up. So yeah, there are a lot of possibility for AD marksmen to show up.
빠르게 준비한 팀이
And lastly, these are the 9.3 hotfix. The support item has
그런 부분에 있어서
gone through some patch because the no farm crypto seems kind of too OP. But this hotfix will be live on server in LCK on the 20th February. So we can expect some no farm crypto meta to show up before the hotfix to be on server.
능력으로 이득을 보는 플레이였는데 솔직히 이게
Well, this gives you more visions and also some new strategy for the teams. You know, it also already showed up in LCS. You know, Bang made a pause thinking it was an UI error, so there were some funny episodes back then. So we can expect some crazy things to also happen in LCK as well.
CS를 먹는 건 지속적으로 괴롭히는 메타가 나올 가능성이 높아요. 그리고
네.
실제로 선수들이 솔로 랭크 같은 데서
I have seen a lot of players trying that no farm crypto meta in the solo queues, so it won't last long, but we can expect that to show up in LCK also too.
네, 이번 주까지
Maybe during this week.
단시 메타를 잘 활용할지 지켜보는 것도 아주 흥미로울 것 같습니다. 자, 이번 주 대진 일정
So let's go through the schedules of this week.
자, 오늘
The
일단
matchup
하나
today will be
생각하시면
Hanwha Life Esports versus Gen.G. And SK Telecom and Kingzone will be the second matchup today.
저는 크게 두 가지인 것 같아요. 우선 오늘 뒤쪽에 있는 SKT와 킹존.
The biggest points for today would be SK Telecom versus Kingzone because Kingzone is on their winning streak and also SK team is also one of the strongest teams, so it's gonna be a big match.
오늘 있을 경기 모두 원딜러들이
As a Captain Jack, as an AD carry player, said he's looking forward to seeing some Creed AD carry to be back on stage for LCK because you know there was big item changes, so he's expecting maybe Sivir or Caitlyn to show up.
포인트 하나만 짚어주시죠.
네, 긴 시간이 있었던 만큼 선수들이 충분히
There was a long break, so I guess a lot of players would have gotten a lot of experience, experiments, and also practices. So we're really looking forward to seeing some new crazy meta, you know, some marksmans or no farm crypto. And also, besides that, actually, Yasuo seems really OP currently, so I'm expecting some Yasuo today. It can be a most banned champion currently. For me, I believe Sivir got the best buff so far because of the item change, and Kai'Sa got nerfed so bad because of the item change. So we're gonna be expecting some new AD carry champions to show up. So this will be the end of the previous show of today. Then let's go and start off the LCK for the 4th week.
Thank you very much, G-Sun, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2019. Finally, we are about to start because we've been off for so long, Papa Smithy. What is this League of Legends thing? We've come back, and now it's 9.3. There's no hotfix. What even is this game?
It's insanity, Atlas. It's been, what, 12 days since I got to broadcast LCK. Yeah. I got to watch on as some interesting games happen. Kingzone versus Gen.G, notably among those. Seems like a lot of casters.
We don't have to talk about it, Smithy, please.
We do have to talk about that. And we have a lot of League of Legends to talk about. We're excited about that, but also some sad news. Our hearts go out to the Blizzard Esports staff and the Blizzard staff. There were a lot of cutbacks today over Blizzard. You and I have cast Blizzard games in the past. A big shout out to people who found out today they don't have jobs. We hope you guys land on your feet soon. We hope the LCK also lands on their feet soon because, again, I think there was a lot of umbrage with how the games were looking. They weren't really passing the eye test. Now we have a bit of a one-week meta because Frostmancy, as the English fans call it, Dunchick, which means literally fasting, which is kind of an amazing way to come with a call of phrase. What's happening? The no-farm meta. We expect to see it, and we expect to see it in our first game because Gen.G, how many shields can they put on Ruler to carry them in the late game? That's probably the strategy they go for.
And both of these teams are actually struggling as well. In fact, on the last day of the last week of LCK, it was both of these teams losing matches, so wanting to bounce back and possibly using some of this cheesy famine strategy like you're talking about, the Frostmancy on the top side of the map. We'll see whether they can actually turn things around. In fact, one of these teams has to, as Sangyoon is still looking to make it towards 1,000 kills. He was trying to do it in his last series, didn't get too many kills in that one, unfortunately.
And that's the fun thing, Atlas, is that's a pretty elite group, 1,000 kills in the LCK. A lot of famous names that you guys would call household names. Sangyoon might be the one that is less known because he hasn't gone international, apart from one tournament, IEM Katowice 2 years ago. Lots of things to talk about here for Hanwha Life Esports versus Gen.G, but neither of these guys right now on fire. Hanwha Life were just decimated by SKT.
They were.
In that final series before we went to break, but now they've had some time off. What have they come together with? 5th versus 8th. Where is Gen.G at? You have to feel like with the crit 80 carry rework, if Ruler can be their MVP, that's probably their path to victory.
Yeah, there's a lot of different changes here that are in the 9.3 patch that aren't necessarily just the Frostmancy. I mean, Sion's got a slight nerf, but there's no Camille in the jungle anymore as much with the hookshot nerf, and that means that Gen.G aren't going to be suffering as much with Peanut helming that role because he hasn't been that Camille player. Let's have a look at some of these highlights, though, as Hanwha did manage to catch FLICKR once. And I think this was the one highlight from that series.
It's definitely one of those hard highlight packages to put out there. Good luck with that.
I mean, this is a highlight of Teddy playing really, really well.
Again, you can only show what you've got to work with, and the most recent series, Hanwha Life looked like they were ready for a holiday, Atlas. It felt like that Friday afternoon shift where you just wanted to get to that weekend as fast as possible. And you know what? They were able to do that. But for a team that was looking really good, that we were seeing kind of entrenched in top 5 calculations, now it's kind of where the rubber hits the road. We're the 4th week of the season, no longer the 1st. Just how good is Hanwha Life Esports? On paper, big favorites against Gen.G. In practice, we'll find out soon.
Exactly. Another one of these teams like Damwon that started off extraordinarily strong but has been slipping down. Gen.G, a very different story, having a very rough start to the LCK, picking up 2 wins, but they were grueling so far. Now wanting to bounce back after what was one of the most messy series that we have ever seen last Sunday. Gen.G really need to clean things up, and This is an example of one of the fights in that series that we were talking about. It just was not very clean from either Kingzone or Gen.G on that day.
I mean, my only real takeaway, apart from, both teams look a bit rough, is that maybe Deft in the late game, Overruler in the late game. It felt like Deft was pretty on point in that series overall, but both of these carries will be in action today. Kingzone versus SKT, a pretty banger second matchup. We're going to open with Hanwha Life against Gen.G. Where are these teams at? It feels like the bot laners are going to be picking up Infinity Edges and trying to be hard carries, but how many shields and Lulus and Karmas will they have around them? Will there be a handshake and just no CS at all happening in the top lane between a Karma and a Lulu? These are things we can't know, because other regions, for example, North America, will not have this Frostmancy meta. It is live in Korea for this single week.
And we have to point out as well that it was the players' decisions, it was the team's decisions to not go with it this week. There was a vote, and they have decided that 9.3 no hotfix will be our week's meta, and then coming in on the 20th will be the hotfix patch as well. So it feels like a one-patch meta at the moment as we introduce Hanwha Life Esports onto the stage. It is the squad that you've been expecting. Not going to be having Lava in the mid lane, though. Tempt will be back. He was the last mid laner to play here for this squad and actually had a decent performance despite rough times, and I feel like that's what we say with Tempt almost every single time.
I think the rosters this week are going to be more indicative of scrims than most recent performance because that was 2 weeks ago and a week of scrims. Yes, there were days off, of course, a very important holiday here, the Lunar New Year, but after that there would have been time for scrims. This is what teams are settling on. Speaking of lineup decisions, we introduced Gen.G. Roach will be starting once again. Had some great games on his birthday when I was casting him last week, so nice to see him back. Otherwise, the expected roster here. Peanut doing well in the KDA, but not so much in terms of overall performance. And where's the drafting at for Gen.G? Because I imagine if that Frostmancy vote was up there, the opportunity to put more shields on Ruler means that Gen.G were probably opting in.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to point out that it is Roach playing instead. And when we were having a discussion about this earlier on, we were thinking Cuvée probably would be the optimal choice. He's the cannon player, likes to get up towards the top side and do some cheesy stuff. But Roach may have something planned for us as well.
He was doing it in solo queue Atlas. Both Gen.G top laners were running the Karmas, running the Lulus. We'll talk more about the strategy and how it works in practice when we actually see it in game. Give you guys more things to draw your attention to, but just talking about what we're seeing. Speaking of seeing, lineup here, bonO, Tempt, Sangyoon, and Key. Again, a little bit light on Lava recently. It feels like he's been out of the roster more than he's been in it. Interesting point about Tempt. He's got 2 Lissandra wins and no other wins on relevant champions in the meta right now. So his effective pool is Lissandra. Lissandra tuned down a little bit, but I imagine we'll still see plenty of Lissandra in this week number 4.
Yeah, those nerfs weren't exactly the most heavy-handed.
They weren't gutted.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Chat, when he came in, he didn't want to come in too strong, you know, in order to get the boot out immediately.
I like that we can name the person who made the balance change.
I know.
Because now all the harassment goes directly to the
right desk.
right
He also announced that that was his change, okay? So, Chat, we're going to need you to keep announcing which changes are yours so that we can blame you as effectively as possible. But no real surprises when it comes to the rosters here. Hanwha Life Esports with a whole lot more flexibility in that regard. It's only Cuvée and Roach. They're going to be switching positions here on the side of Gen.G. But what will be switching positions is which champions are going to be taking to the Rift. And bottom lane is as important, I feel, as the top side with all this Frostmancy weirdness going around.
There's just so many whispers, Atlas, because I've talked to a couple of pro players, asked them about their breaks, and also like, hey, what are we going to see? 9.3, crit 80 carries, yeah. And a lot of the expected answer there, but also there's other names of champions people are throwing out where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to catch that. You know, like when someone gives you a pass, usually you want to catch the bomb. But yeah, okay, yeah. But sometimes I'm like,
you're going
sure
fishing and you've got a boot instead, Pups.
We're going fishing, and what we're catching on the fishing in this weird week, we are on patch 9.3. Notice, no hotfix enabled. If you're joining us when it comes to the VODs. Speaking of the live, Urgot, the one kind of meta champion that avoided any attention on patch 9.3, the first ban coming out from Hanwha Life Esports.
Yep, Lucian going to be the follow-up as well, so even after all the crit changes, Lucian's still pretty damn strong, and Sangyoon and Ruler wanting to get on maybe a little bit more scaling here. Both of them have been erring on that side, but the Ezreal certainly fits both, with the 2-item power spike as well as the ridiculous late-game damage, so I like that ban.
The general consensus among Korean AD carries is that Lucian is still the best bot lane AD carry, in spite of having really no change in at least early itemization, so lane priority. Still a big thing, of course. The turret plates is still all we talk about.
Yep.
Lucian Thresh, the Lifesteal bot lane is banned, and we're not seeing Frostmancy bans. We're seeing bot lane carry bans, and interesting to see Kai'Sa actually join the crew, purely because right now there's almost no agreement on what the zero-sum or best build is on Kai'Sa. It's no longer just go for Essence Reaver into, sorry, Storm Razor into the Rage Blade. Right now, a lot of different things are being tested. We won't know about the results of that test, at least in game number 1, and that means that it's Urgot and 5 bot lane bans for GenG and Hanwha Life.
Well, Cassiopeia is left available, but the Karma is up, the Lulu is up. There's all sorts of these Frostmancy abusers that we could be heading towards. Vladimir is going to be the choice, and you are very vocal about Vladimir being pretty busted on this patch.
I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that he can build 2 CDR items and hit 45% cap means that level 7 onwards is the pain train.
Oh, yeah. As
Vladimir continues to scale. Vlad and Yasuo are the big champions in solo queue, so both of them enabled for now. Gen.G will definitely lock in Karma, you would think, as we've been alluding to, and here we go.
Here we go.
And there's not even any ambiguity, Atlas. Look at this. They're like, we got the 2 best things.
Here we go.
Oh, God. Well,
this is not what we wanted. But maybe it's going to be a good example. Maybe
there's nothing good about it.
I'm trying to find a silver lining, but this cloud is damn dark, Bubba Smithy. It's a real dark one.
Yep, so top lane Karma is our expectation. Now, Gen.G are famous for playing mid lane Karma back in the Crown days.
Very
and even
true.
Fly as well, so small chance that changes, but we think Frostmancy is going to begin here. Again, we talked about it in the pregame, but in Korea it's called the Danshik meta, which means the fasting meta, because at the start of the game, you're not actually killing creeps, you're just attacking, getting your quest cash in, and going from there and getting a lot of wards and a lot of shields. So I think we're going to see an Infinity Edge carry from Ruler, and you can kind of fill everything else around it. The laning phase is going to be fun to elocute to talk about.
Yeah.
So once in NA was top lane Zillion there. Here's Sivir, who is considered now really the go-to AD carry, and if you take it at this last pick in the first round, you can even ban away a Caitlyn and get some more coverage for the Sivir.
Exactly. Certainly a lot of options. And in fact, you banned Caitlyn and Jinx, the 2 most notable picks against the Sivir historically, but Draven, I feel, is the one that might slip under the radar. We'll see whether that's where Sangyoon does want to go. Not necessarily one of our premier Draven players. Ghost, of course,
Draven is the strongest possible lane against it, so it is more about the fact that Draven is kind of that weirder champion in terms of identity. A lot of AD carries actually can play everything except Draven. There's Draven-only players. Gango, for example, a really big Draven player. So we'll wait and see if it actually gets a coverage ban. Speaking of bans, Shen ban here against bot lane Shen. A lot of popularity since Joker brought it back. A very old meta pick. Tucson and others will be eyeing it for our second series of the day.
Yes, of course, and because the Vladimir Shen has been such a popular lane to run, even though it basically does nothing in the laning phase, once you get out of it, it's a pretty terrifying one, as Gen.G do ban away the Jinx, one of the champions that I mentioned just before, does decently well into the Sivir.
Always outranged with the rockets, and thus when Sivir was looking to ricochet wave clear a couple of rockets to the face, which also wave clear. This is 2015 analysis from you and I.
I know,
in
right?
2015
I'm going back to the LPL.
Spring. 4 years later, baby, it still works out. Awesome to see. One item, IE, really strong on Jinx as well. Another reason that she's seeing a respect ban and a Sangyoon favorite. So banning against the player a bit more than just, hey, Draven, because Draven is good. Into Sivir. Jungle pick to answer Olaf wants to get nowhere near the Viking. It's going to be the Nocturne, and Peanut going to take his time. Had a couple of games where he was never really completing the Paranoia and was just using it for zoning, kind of bad flashbacks to Clear Love at Worlds. So hopefully you're not going to come here, and there's a lot of ways to approach. People are talking about what works into champions like Caitlyn, which we know we'll see play later in the day. Choice against Sivir, there's a lot of options. We start with the Tahm Kench, and Sangyoon seems to be giving a lot of information here. Does he actually want to complete the Vayne? It'd be cool to see one. What are we going to see here? As opting out of a crit 80 carry would be very surprising. Feels like the Awesome Dudes might actually be taking a big step back.
Well, we'll see whether Sangyoon is going to be going towards either the Caitlyn or the Tristana, 2 champions that I do actually quite like. On this patch at the moment, you mentioned 1 item power spike in the Infinity Edge. Not going to be opted in for necessarily here by Sangyoon with the Ashe, but Ashe has a hell of a lot of flexibility when it comes to the item choices. You can still build Blade, but you can go for that Infinity Edge if you want to.
There's also a much more macro concept we should talk about.
Yeah.
The ability of the Hawkshot to spot out Nocturne's camp. He's a non-interactive jungler pre-6. That's important information for an invading jungler like the Olaf to predict where the Nocturne is, try to out-skirmish him, try to out-gank him, try to invade. The amount of utility the Ashe provides for the overall team comp less about the 2v2, needs to be noted as the final pick is going to be that nerfed Lissandra. Like we mentioned, still going to be strong, and a confirmation the Karma's going top, and she ain't going to be farming too much in the early game. Seems like those average CSD numbers are going to be in the toilet for Roach.
Exactly. We're going back to another one of these seasons where all of the stats are completely destroyed. Thanks Final Meta, and now thanks Frostmancy here in the LCK. So Roach on the Karma, and I just hope that we never look at the top side of the map. I just don't want to.
Hey, can I explain it once so that it's officially on video, then we ignore it?
Yes, yes. Okay, once we're into the game, I'll allow that, but I'm still just not happy about it. Still definitely not happy about it.
This game is the ultimate 600 CS silver win condition, by the way. She has a Braum, she has a Karma.
She's even got a Lissandra to help peel for her. I mean, this is the ruler show. This is precisely what we were expecting out of Gen.G, and this is pretty understandable. Out of Hanwha Life Esports as well, they do like their team fights, and they do like having that little bit of extra control, and bonO has been out overperforming on the OLAP especially so far this season.
And how will bonO interact with a Karma who's going to have an interesting lane position, given that she's not going to be focusing on farming, she's going to be focusing on harassing. And also the pretty clear task of, let's get this done in the first 30, rather than allowing this to be an even ball game at 40 minutes. That's where things will really come into their own. On the side of Gen.G, Hanwha Life Esports, 5th, trying to cement their spot in the top 5. Gen.G still down the bottom of the table, but looking to find some light. It's only week 4. The season's not over yet.
Exactly, and it was a disappointing loss against Kingzone as well. Can Gen.G turn it around, and will it be Frostmancy that does it? Let's find out right now. Gen.G fans in full voice. I do love that Peanut has very much accepted the Frostmancy meta as well. He's gone the Frosty Nocturne skin. Very, very nice. In fact, they've got a very frosty vibe. Freljordi in support, as well as Lissandra in the mid lane. It's a frosty old day today.
Yeah, I'm rolling up, but I'm frosty about it too, Atlas, because I'm not a huge fan of Frostmancy. Neither were the North American teams. There was a vote put out, and they basically, you know, with no days removed, 1 day's notice, opted into no Frostmancy. The micro patch that went live today around the world is alive in competitive games as well, so very fast turnaround compared to the normal kind of 1 week to soak in. Because of a quirk of scheduling, there was 1.5 weeks prep for the LCK teams, and I imagine that's why, with 1.5 weeks worth of scrims, they are opting into not putting down the micro patch. Frostmancy is live, and basically what that means, don't bother trying to do this at home because that patch means it's no longer possible. But the basic thing is, the reason why it's called Frostmancy is you start with Spell Thieves, you upgrade it to the Frostfang, you focus purely on harassing in the laning phase to get Klepto procs, and also to play around where the minion wave is. You can push it up, you can also hold it back, but you don't get any actual farm until you cash in that quest, and then you have 2 forms of gold generation, and then even further, Atlas, you got a whole lot of wards that the enemy team doesn't have access to after that quest is cashed in.
Yep, exactly right. And you can see Roach, he's just going to be inspiring himself, shield bashing Tal, and this is going to be the worst experience ever. I wish that we could more directly communicate with our observers, because I just don't want to look at this.
I think that's an important teaching moment, though.
I do understand that, but
basically the findings have been that when you cash in that quest and focus on CSing, you actually still surpass, because Kleptomancy gets you that odd 300 to 500 gold.
Yeah.
In the laning phase as well, you hold down the enemy, and you can do a lot of interesting things. If you think back to the last time we talked about minion aggro, it'd be way back when single target spells like Pantheon Q and Kassadin Q were taking aggro. It meant that when you queued as Kassadin in the mid lane, the minions would turn on you and aggro on you, and you'd take some damage. That actually has a lot of interesting implications with where the lane is at, because in the top lane, you can do a lot of things like harass the enemy, the minions aggro onto you, you jump into a brush, as we actually see bonO invade onto Peanut, and from there, you can freeze the wave, you can push the wave, you can do a lot of interesting things. You know what Nocturne doesn't get to do? Get a blue buff, because we said it already, we want to see bonO invading to disrupt the overall gameplay in the early game. Should be Hanwha Life focused, and bonO agrees.
yeah, I actually really like it as well. Just leave that top lane to be an island. Roach is going to be frustrating with this strategy, but it looks like Hanwha Life, they get priority in the mid lane, and they open the door for bonO just to wander in and take all of Peanut's stuff. Certainly is going to be pretty damn good for Hanwha, and they need to find advantages elsewhere, because that top lane is not going to be a fun place for them. Peanut trying to take this wolf camp. The Sply is sitting underneath his turret. Doesn't have a lot to do as the bubble is going to land. It arms as well. No mana, but Peanut Not going to get jumped on here. Between turrets, level 3 for bonO. Doesn't want to dive.
And this is a forgotten thing, but on the BBQ Oliver's, Tempt was one of our sickest Zoe players, you'll remember.
Oh, yeah.
Had some great battle Zoe moments as well. Tempt and Edge, you know, around those bottom teams in 2018. Really put off some big Zoe performances. And Zoe, to me, is a champion no one's discussing, but with all the other incremental nerfs to Flex Assassins, a kind of a removal of Akali, I feel like Zoe's in a really good spot right now to be blind picked into basically any matchup. LeBlanc's still a bit of a struggle, but I think we'll see a lot more Zoe this week, which I know gets some jeers from some people and some happiness from others.
Yeah. One thing to note as well is that Tal did take the Ancient Coin. So he's trying a bit of the strat himself, but unfortunately no Klepto. So not going to be making as much bank as Roach. And Roach is the optimal Frostmancy champion here in Korea on the Karma.
And it makes sense because obviously this only gives you gold based on minions you're missing, but it's against a champion who only is interested in holding you down. So at least there's some pickups for the Vladimir to find some gold, and teams would have expected Frostmancy, especially from Gen.G, just given the fact that Ruler has been their reliable win condition and that Roach and Cuvée had both been playing in solo queue. So I think everyone will have different ideas. You can also just go Jace and try to punish by going for pure laning strength into Frostmancy. You can consider 5-minute lane swaps to try to shut it down because, yes, still there is going to be the turret reinforcements issue that stops you from lane swapping at level 1. So there's many different ways to play around it, and I imagine we'll see evolving strategies over the course of this week.
Yeah, and the one thing that I want to find out as well is exactly what sort of numbers you need to get to in order to out-invest, I guess, against this Frostmancy strategy. Just because Tal, you saw, was only down by, what, 20 gold or something like that against Roach, who's been abusing him constantly here in this lane. So at the moment, having 30 CS at 5 minutes seems to be working out for Hanwha.
And again, do not try this at home. This is not possible on the live patch as of today, but for this week in Korea, you can be going for your Ancient Coin or your Spell Thieves and playing for the quest. Does mean quest on both sides, so Atlas, Korea's going to be strong for this week because we're going to have way more wards in the late game. Maybe the late game's going to be also polished in week number 4.
Exactly. Going back to what we were talking about before, we're back in 2015 in
Give us
so
those
many
wards,
different
baby!
ways, Bubba Smithy.
Woo!
Here we go. The dream. Speaking of the dream, Hanwha Life Esports have picked up the Ocean Drake, and having that one as a first Drake is the best time to get that dragon. Oh no.
Whoopsie.
Roach got a farm. And farm.
You hate to see it.
I know, this is just
farming on Karma.
This
what
is
a
to
mistake!
make sure Sangyoon doesn't pause the game.
What a mistake.
He can see the farm numbers.
I mean, I would probably pause the game on a 1 as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good point. But at least he can see a number. It's not like a guaranteed buff. You can see Tempt. He's having a good time here in the mid lane. Actually, 10 CS ahead against Fly, who's been struggling, honestly, this whole year. 2019 has not been the year of Fly at the moment.
About 100 gold so far on that Ancient Coin. Nomad's Medallion comes out. Does mean that Fiendish Codex and Kindle Gem, the 2 items we always see on Vladimir before he gets going. Reason for that, guys, is that you can go for Transcendence and scaling cooldown reduction, and also the 5% from the Inspirations, right?
Yep.
Yes, and get 45% with just 20% from items. About 1,700 gold to pick up those 2. So a very, very common build path, but slow down Nomad's Medallion and Kindle Gem also 20% CDR.
Yeah, exactly. So still going to be getting that CDR. Is Tal, so the Vladimir more than happy now, almost at that level 7 point that you mentioned, very important. Time in the game, level 9 probably feels the best, but level 7's when things start getting awful for your opponent. But is it going to get awful for Roach, is the question. Of course, Karma great at abusing melee matchups, but is it that much better to be a Vladimir in this matchup?
It's an interesting point. I think the gold numbers here, I think Vlad obviously has plenty of outscale and also works decently against a shield comp. Not ideally, because if you think about Gen.G, you can't really isolate anyone. They're all diving in together. Sivir famously fights with her tank line rather than getting zoned by a diving Vlad in the late game. So can be very interesting. It feels like the breakpoints there and even just item and timings can be pretty significant. So we'll get some demonstration on screen before long. We'll get bit more indicative of where things are at. But I'm very interested to see gold numbers. I hope we press C a lot.
I know. Yeah. I think
around 10, 15, 20 minutes to understand where the gold is at. As right now, we can see very clearly on the screen where the map is at. Trying to get some turret going. That's the first turret plate to Tempt, and what is a good matchup for the Zoe.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic play so far here from Tempt in the mid lane. You can understand why he's been chosen over Lava, and I like that you mentioned in Champion Select that this is going to be largely about how scrims have been going rather than last week's performance, because there hasn't been a last week's performance for us to go off. So learning about which of these players has been performing well in practice. And Tempt is going to do it again. Portal Jump does deliver a big paddle star to Fly down to 300 health. Trying to get his move up. Arrow lands. The flash from Fly will keep him alive, but how alive is the question? And bonO picks up the first blood. Fly very close to death, but Key just saves the Olaf and he Ragnaroks his way out of there.
Damn, that arrow was money. Doesn't actually get the instant kill, but still rewarded because it hits onto Peanut. Wasn't aware of it. Seems like 1 out of 2 was aware. They end up picking up a kill there. Big moment. A nice advantage to Hanwha Life. They're picking up some bounties. We should also talk about how bounties usually occur in this matchup, because usually, if you're not farming, you're going to see a farm bounty on the Vladimir. Don't see that so far this game. We get the replay here, all about an Ashe arrow. Let's watch where Ashe is on the screen. Is not in vision when this starts. It's over terrain, so that's the usual thing that's going to evade attention there. Life was probably just a couple of pixels away from intercepting this arrow. Instead, it is the cha-ching arrow gets the kill instantly onto the Nocturne, but not quite the cleanup onto Fly.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to point out the fact that Tempt hit about every bubble that he needed to just then. This Zoe play, like you illustrated before, very clean. So far, bonO hanging out here in the mid lane, understands that Fly doesn't have flash, doesn't have ult. He's basically free pickings.
And look at this screen. 10 minutes in, after not CSing until the quest is in. You know the quest is completed. You can see the one ward available on the Karma. There's basically no gold difference between the two, and now you have multiple forms of income that's going to be pretty reliably procced by a Karma in any matchup. It's not quite the ultimate abuse case of, you know, an immobile tank versus a Karma where you just get every auto win. There's no trading potential. Tar will finally have 5 points in queue very, very shortly and be able to impact the lane a little bit harder, but Karma's such a safe champion. To me, she is the quintessential Frostmancy champion. A lot of fans around the world came across this strategy from the Reddit post with Kennen with Frostmancy, where the term was coined. It was actually live in Korea about 4 days earlier. I'd already seen 2 top lane Karmas before that post was. That's about the 4th of February, and there's a very famous Korean YouTuber who talked about top lane Karma going for the Frostmancy build on the 31st of January, so about 5 days before it hit Reddit. So it was Karma always that the Koreans were focused on. It's a strat that came from DopaStream when he was streaming in China, so it's not a Korea original strat, but it's already hit the world stage. It's already been seen in the LCS, and now we get a week of it in Korea.
Yeah, of course, Hunu did play the Zillion when he was opting for it, and they didn't find the victory because in that game, Bang was playing Vayne and got pretty damn strong. Yep. Even if he did pause out of confusion. So it is certainly beatable. However, it is frustrating, especially in the laning phase, as Tempt knows that life is there. Just trying to get some harass across, but doesn't find Fly with too much. We'll just continue to farm things out. Gen.G wanting to stabilize. 2,000 gold behind is approximately the lead here for Hanwha Life, but Roach is going to continue getting further and further ahead.
Can we have a live casting discussion while not much is happening?
Absolutely, yeah. What do you want to talk about?
So you know how Flame Horizon used to be a really cool thing when it was much more the Ignite top laners, then it kind of became 100 CS lead and a good matchup, and we still called it Flame Horizon. Can we just agree that it's not a Flame Horizon now?
Absolutely.
For this week, Flame Horizon, when there's a Frostmancy champion, we're calling a moratorium on it. I hope LS is listening.
Yep.
No Flame Horizons. I mean, we probably won't see one because Karma's going to catch up, but just don't want to talk about it. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, speaking of catching up to things, Arrow's going to be dodged there by Peanut, but Ruler's got a spell shield. Peanut's got a spell shield. Everyone does. No one's going to get hit by that one, and the Devour was a bit late from Key.
Comes in there, and it might have been a Devour cooldown thing. Hard to say. It's just available now, so you'd have to assume it was about availability there, but they get that important kill. It's really important now. Free time for Sivir to farm. Goes the Essence Reaver. We're seeing first items complete. 25% crit on the Essence Reaver, 20% CDR. Sivir mana hungry will return to that item after the change where no longer is it the item that it was before. Much more about the mana and just the pure stats, but has critical strike on it once again.
Yeah, it is back to the old Essence Reaver. You have to go elsewhere if you want to get that Essence Flare that is no longer called Essence Flare.
The Spear of Shojin.
Exactly.
I don't know about 80 carries. Maybe Callista can do a Sterix impression and pick it up, but apart from that, probably not going to see it.
Hasn't been that many abuse cases. I feel like
Jax is really good.
Jax was ridiculous.
Can't always afford it, but let's watch the replay and understand this. So Key had used Devour to get the
Rift Scuttle,
and used it a second time to kill it. So that information was not confirmed. Only the first Devour was in. They knew Tahm Kench's out of lane. The lust for the gold, Atlas. He was hungry. He wanted some gold, and unfortunately, that's the reason. The Sangyoon, remember, this is the longest standing duo. Seems like there was a lack of communication there, because that's definitely the time where if you don't know where Nocturne is, you pull away from bot lane.
Yep, and that's going to mean that the gold is now not even outside of that 1,000 gold mark. In the early game, Hanwha Life did have a lot of control. The Olaf was doing what he needed to do, but now he's been quiet. bonO hasn't been able to find too much of anything. Claw of Doom is not too scary there from Fly. Hanwha Life need to put the pressure on yet again, because I feel like this comp from Gen.G wants to do exactly this, which is basically nothing until the very latest stages of the game.
But Hanwha Life have much better one-item, two-item breakpoints, and a Vlad who can can't contend with Sivir late game. Sivir is just the god champion, but is up there, right, when it comes to late game. So there is still windows where Hanwha Life are very favored. They still have Rift Herald. They still have a Zoe running around and Poke, and right now Gen.G kind of have to all in against Poke. They don't have other options. But they can try to play the map, and playing the map might work out here.
Yeah, looking to all in against a Vladimir, and that's a very early pull, but a lot of damage actually coming out here from Tal. Fly in trouble, almost gets it back. The Hemo Plague was not enough healing to get that one back through, as the tower going to be in trouble in this mid lane. No turret plates, but Shelly will make short work of this outer and mid.
She actually goes for an interesting little visual bug there as well, but you're getting the point. Notice the timer, though. This timer works more for Gen.G because after 14 minutes, so no turret plates are going to be the payment there. Arrow goes wide, nice goal is scored, but bonO's still interested.
Yep, On the Hunt has been popped though, so Ruler is able to get himself out of there. Gen.G continue to shove things forward on the top side of the map after taking down that turret themselves.
And I love the timing of this roam. Was it completely intentional, just a byproduct of where waves are at? We can't know. But after 14 minutes, the response Rift Herald that you would expect from Hanwha Life, they were wearing that buff, is a little bit late and doesn't get the charge to get 2 guaranteed plates. So you don't actually get the gold trade here that negates the effectiveness of a 3-man gank up top lane earlier than 14 minutes.
Yeah, exactly right. So Gen.G more than happy and are now going to have the gold advantage, because if you start a fight, I mean, Karma's making so much bank off it. Oh my goodness.
I mean, Karma's already got cooler items than Vlad does already, right? She's got a completed high-tier item compared to Proto Belt and working towards the standard Vladimir assortment of ability power items. We know he uses them well, but right now he is still thrift shopping. Watching in the mid lane. Mid lane turret is down, and that is still something important to talk about. A lot of siege on this Hanwha Life team, and again, that's another window they can exploit. The siege options for Gen.G, very paltry in comparison.
Precisely. Well, can Hanwha Life actually play around the advantages that they have, or is it going to be enough for Gen.G just to continue plodding about, doing as little as possible and winning the game in the end? The answer seems to be pretty good here for Gen.G so far, because you've got a Guardian Angel already completed onto Peanut. Second item of choice here for most of our Nocturnes. This just means that he can go in with Reckless Abandon, and we might actually have a more aggressive Gen.G earlier than we may have expected.
And that means they can have Nocturne dive in with a Karma shield, potentially for the whole team, at least selfishly for the Nocturne, and his ability to always commit. Again, we talked about how he had to be a voyeur a couple of times in previous Nocturne games, and then hope that was enough. He can commit here for multiple reasons, and him wearing the gold actually means when that siege, that again, we really like Hanwha Life for starts, they have a hard commitment button they can press at 17 minutes rather than having to kind of wait for items like other games. We've seen pretty much the same kind of mismatch in identities between two teams.
Yeah, the thing that I find a little bit frustrating is that Hanwha haven't been able to utilize this mid-game to get any picks. I mean, their composition is beautiful when it comes to skirmishing around vision advantages, and they have been able to take down this bottom outer turret. Finally able to get that one done. It's going to give them the turret advantage, and that gold is going to be even once again. But to try and get themselves into a position where they can find a pick and then actually get a notable lead, that's what I want to see. But instead, it's going to be Gen.G going for the aggression. The Devour is off cooldown this time, and the Glacial Fissure doesn't land onto Sangyoon. They do manage to pick up the Toadfish, and Roach takes a lot of damage there from Tempt, but there's no answer here from Hanwha.
But there's not a bigger punishment because Peanut was out of range. Atlas uses the ult, but actually isn't in position to fully commit. Just uses it perhaps to get the teleport advantage at the start, but can't actually get the gap close. Was only 4 after all. And Hanwha Life are in position to try to contest. Tahm Kench down. This will Voyage to get back, but what does this mean for the Drake, which is spawned?
Well, it's a really nice spell shield there from Peanut, so he doesn't go to sleep. And they're not going to lose their Nocturne's GA just yet. Speaking of going to sleep, the Cloud Drake also going to sit back down again. Gen.G not opting in to go for that one overly aggressively. And Hanwha, they have an opportunity to augment their Drake collection with a cloudy one.
So that will be just a kill, and it seems like Gen.G aren't allowing for this. They don't know if they want to commit. They don't really have any more go buttons. They're just trying to poke around, and it does end up being free. So a death but a Drake. It's not ideal, but you'll take it. That's Hanwha Life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that was an Infernal Drake, they'd be very, very happy. Unfortunately, it's only going to be a little bit of extra movement speed, but still definitely good for Hanwha. And I don't know how bonO was able to hold on to his flash and not have to actually flash over the wall there, but was given a free exit here by Gen.G.
I'd like to see the replay just because we've seen Peanut actually short the Paranoia a couple of times. Is this purely to get a TP advantage? The answer has to be yes, because Nocturne's so far away.
Yeah.
The Paranoia is only used to stop Vladimir from getting in, and that part works, but they maybe overrate how much damage they do. They don't get a second pick, and thus they invest quite a lot and end up getting, at best, kind of an even iffy trade.
There was a potential teleport opportunity for Tal after the Paranoia wore off, but I think you're right. It was slightly too late. They'd already lost Key at that point in time.
And I give the benefit of the doubt to Peanut on that one. When you're just out of range, you know, you see awkward things like a Nocturne flashing to get in Paranoia range.
Yeah.
This one was very visibly on level 1 Nocturne ult, nowhere near the fight. So I assume it was purely, let's cancel the enemy teleports, but in the end, seems like overall the judgment call wasn't fantastic from Gen.G.
Yep. Well, you're talking about 2-item spikes. You got Oblivion all picked up by both of these AP carries coming in from Hanwha Life. You've got 2 items here on Sangyoon with the Hurricane picked up as well. Certainly fantastic synergy here for the Ashe. So certainly some ways of doing battle for Hanwha Life Esports, and their comp does work very well together.
And this is why we thought this would be the mid game from Hanwha Life, because you go somewhere first, and if Nocturne's not there with ultimate, what are you doing? You're vacating as Gen.G. These are free objectives for Hanwha Life. All outer turrets are basically free objectives when you're fielding Zoe, Ashe, and you have a skirmishing advantage from the jungle. That is what Hanwha Life picked for. So good to see it clicks in. Maybe 5 minutes too late, but it clicks in anyway. Roach on the bot side getting farm. You don't really care because Karma's, again, just going to get some little bit extra shielding and a little bit extra burst that can be negated. So you're okay with the trade of farm here between members, and you also get that Baron control. You try and walk up toward Baron, you could be in for a bad time due to Zoe, but nice little observer showing here. There is a nice TP ward on the side. They're starting Baron.
Yeah,
is there any information here?
Absolutely no vision
Nocturne's
available
just
here
taking
from
red
Gen.G.
buff.
Yeah, exactly. So this is just going to be taken down to at least half
don't
health.
know.
Gen.G, what are they going to do? Okay,
now.
they do finally figure it out, but what is actually the counterplay
Nocturne
here?
will have to
What
show
is
himself in
the
mid.
option? Yeah, he's going to show on that mid-outer turret. Paranoia does come down, but the Baron goes to the Olaf so easily. Decisive play coming in. Arrow is going to get that field goal once again as Peanut dives on forward, but Sangyoon's at full health. Roach trying to get the work done, but he's a Karma that's not doing so much here at this stage. And Tal is the Vlad, and Tal is huge. Peanut comes over, Dustbringer is going to do it, but now there's a huge advantage for Hanwha Life Esports, and they have a Baron.
An atrocity of a fight, but Vladimir in the backline, well played by Tal to maximize damage. They want to chase down Peanut. 3 Baron buffs will be gone, but it should be 2 remaining. They're just trying to guarantee this one, and they can also desync the spawn timing.
Staggering the backs, Papa.
It might be a Blizzard term usually, but staggering the backs means that Nocturne won't be in position to repel a push for quite a long time after the respawn.
Exactly, so let's have a look at this one again. The arrow wasn't necessarily great, but the rest of the fight was good from Hanwha.
Watch the end of this fight, because it felt like Sivir free hitting would be the thing, but Roach is never fighting with Sivir until right at the end of the fight. Isn't actually able to back him up, no Ardent Sensor, and Vladimir actually threads his skills so well at the end to get the double kill. Doesn't quite get out, but Peanut has to invest his flash just to clean up the Vladimir. Peanut goes down, desynced at the end, and Hanwha Life should be very happy with how that came together.
And if you just ducked back 5 months or something like that and you told me that was Tal making that level of a play on the Vladimir, I'd be like, you're joking. But man, this year, 2019, has been the year of the Tal, and he got max damage in that team fight. Sangyoon was the focus, but it was all the Vladimir. Really nicely done, justifying leaving up the Karma as well. I mean, we wanted to know why Hanwha played right into this Frostmancy play. They knew it was coming, outperformed it in that last fight.
And while Tal hasn't been, you know, suddenly a godly Smeb transformation from Incredible Miracle to the Rocks Tigers, he has been visibly better. The eye test, if you're watching him, is you're seeing a lot more of this player that hit huge expectations when he was dominating in Europe. Son of Kasing, his ID there, was rank 1 for so much of the time. On SKT, it was a very forgettable year for Tal, but now without kind of the superstar names around him, seems a bit unburdened when it comes to making aggressive moves. Peanut walks up, but he knows this is not the time for paranoia. It's Zoe with a Baron buff, Ashe with good range. How did Gen.G stop structures going down?
I don't know, but I feel like we might have double lift accidentally in this game instead of Ruler, because there is a Sivir on the top side of the map hitting an inhibitor turret against Tal.
But she's primed for a teleport flank, of course.
Oh yes, ready for that one. As Sangyoon's going to land an arrow for basically no reason. And that tower is going to stay alive for the moment. Peanut trying to defend here in the mid lane, jungler v jungler. Gen.G with 3 against this Siege. And you mentioned the fact that Siege is what Hanwha want to do.
Oh yeah.
This is precisely their happy place. Teleport to guarantee the turret. They should be able to get in here and take that one down. All 5 members rotate over. That's a basically free inhibitor. Gen.G, not a whole lot they can do about this one.
Oh, this game's getting me going, Frostman's losing Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
This is what we need. We needed the first example to not win, and then no one will do it anymore. In theory.
It was a very successful laning phase for the Karma. She actually turned on the quest, as you'd expect, even in a range matchup, very, very early. But we're not seeing the team fights we expect, which is let's all rush in at the same time and buff up Ruler. Also 6 items, no Infinity Edge coming just yet, so we're working on 3 items still on the Sivir. So the wait a while approach is being punished by the do it now approach. It wasn't 15 minutes, but at 20 onwards, Hanwha Life have exploded into life. And Vladimir got the free farm next to the Karma. Also had a bit more oomph with the items with the Ancient Coin Nomad's Medallion. So right now, Vladimir being one of those holdouts to what we thought could be just a completely oppressive Frostfang meta.
Yeah, might be a little bit more to think about instead of just pick Karma and win the game. And that's certainly what you want. You want there to be counterplay options. You want there to be answers to these certain pickups. And
I mean, I just want it to be gone, but that's
next
week.
I mean, that's the other
We're living in the today.
Yeah. Look, you sometimes got to accept the environment that you've been plonked in, Papa Smithy.
You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. And that would be Frostmancy losing.
That's true.
Oh,
that's
yes.
That's
Vladimir
exactly
gold numbers higher. Loving it.
Almost able to get 100 CS in ahead. And that's actually relevant here because the quest was completed at about a 50 CS disadvantage, so that's probably the default. So that means a huge lead for Tal when it comes to farm, and that's because most of it has been delivered over to Ruler. Infinity Edge now completed, but it's mirrored on the side of Sangyoon as well.
And yet, we're getting close to that one team fight range. The gold lead is not huge here, Atlas, and Sivir is now much more fearsome than she was a moment ago. Consider a lot of paper targets to be cut through by some ricochets. And there is no hotfix on the fact that Ricochet has a 5% higher AD ratio than intended. So Sivir's strong on 9.3. We'll see a lot of her this week. Still haven't seen the full impact, and the right poking, and it might not matter at all. Hope doesn't come together. There's Sivir ult.
Yeah, Tal looking for it. The arrow's actually going to land as Redemption goes down. Hemoplague a little bit late there from Tal. They do guarantee the inner turret, but that's not the team fight that they were obviously looking for.
And meanwhile, the 3 TPs are being put onto the map here. Lissandra isn't going to be called, Paranoia not used. With no commitment, some big teamfight tools are now removed from Hanwha Life. So Gen.G actually don't lose too much in terms of map position. They will not get the answering in a turret though, as Lissandra no longer has the safety to push with Reckless Abandon.
Yeah, I do like the fact that Gen.G are putting the shield up, but they still have the sword somewhere, you know? So utilizing Fly on that bottom side to try and get something back and also be able to push out these super creeps so they can buy themselves some space. Ruler going to teleport back onto the map. He wants his GA, but a Chain Vest is going to have to do for the moment. Not exactly the highest value item here against this comp, but at least bonO can't just run at him for free.
And the big thing we want to see in fights is Nocturne to separate away either Zoe or Ashe, and the other 4 to fight basically arm in arm. That's what we want to see on the side of Gen.G, specifically Roach in position to continually buff and just annoy the enemy team. Right now, patrolling the Vladimir and giving him peace of his mind.
Yep, he's certainly annoying the Vladimir, even avoids the Crimson Rush damage to come in and also give Tal back a whole bunch of his health bar. Trouble Bubble, not going to be enough
All right.
to defend.
And this is where
okay,
Hanwha
they've
Life
just
are
started
strong.
it.
They can play around Baron and look for a catch. No catches so far. Where's the ward? 6,000 health on the Baron.
Oh, and Tal is in position for this flank as well. He can get a decent 3-man, but they've decided that they want to engage onto him. Hanwha Life going to pull off the Baron, and the reset does come in. Some extra damage, so only down to about 50%. Hanwha happy to still throw these auto attacks in, but not wanting to go for a 50-50 fly, looking for the teleport.
Really good positioning from Gen.G. So many teams have gone to contest Baron at 6,000 and been flanked by someone, a Vladimir, a Cannon, in that position. Instead, they know their first goal is to get a ward on that river brush to spot Vladimir. A ward in the brush, a ward over the brush. You know Flash is up on Vladimir. You cannot be surprised. You can't come to the VOD review and say, oh, we couldn't see the Vladimir. We got flanked. Unlucky. It's not unlucky. It is calculated play there from Gen.G. So the shield, for now, is staying strong. The Unbreakable is right now still true in the name. The gold lead, as we mentioned, if you don't talk about any of the shenanigans, is pretty good for a Sivir comp. The Sivir comp walks up again. How does this time go?
Well, this position is looking great here for Hanwha as Life puts his face forward. There's the Hemo Plague onto 3 as Paranoia comes down. Peanut has already flashed into the pit, but it's not quite low enough. bonO wants to get it and does pick up the Baron. Now we're going for the team fight. Devour comes in. Arrow lands once again, this time onto Fly. The damage from the Ash is good, but she's now dead. Picked up by Ruler in the back line. Battlestar's flying forward. Ruler is still alive as Tal trying to get the work done, trying to take him down. The Q isn't enough. The flash gets Ruler out of there as the Boomerang has such a huge range. The Baron does go over to Hanwha as Tempt is looking to try and pick up this kill. Ruler, can he close the distance?
He has the
answer
spell
is
shield
no.
back up, so he's happy to walk up. Actually doesn't use it.
Oh, the
after
trouble
wrong time.
bubble.
That was a bit of a mess at the end, but a nice team fight. Finally, the best friendship was put back together. You could put a Facebook timeline on that one. 29 minutes in is when
waiting for that
friendship
memories
was
on your
renewed between Roach and Ruler. Those two R's need to be together. We get this fight. First time Roach, Ruler, and Life can play together, but Paranoia isn't actually diving a threat. It's the 50-50 Baron that's won by bonO. If this Baron goes to Gen.G, it's going to be a team fight victory for the side of Gen.G. Instead, it ends up being very even, but you notice those ricochets cutting through paper like we alluded to, and also the positioning that Gen.G craves with their Karma Sivir in the late game.
Yeah, and the Frozen Thralls also doing a lot of work. Tal holding onto his Sangyoon pull so that he could avoid 2 of them was actually very instrumental in how Hanwha were able to go even 3 for 3 in this fight.
Oh, we're doing it again.
This is another one. Tal's diving on forward. They already pick up Peanut as Fly exploding from the Hemo Plague, but it's not enough to actually get that kill. Gen.G rotating the theoretical bottom lane, but bottom and top in this case.
Seems like Gen.G were caught on a red buff pickup timing for
Yeah,
Ruler.
not good.
And that means they're going to lose a lot. This is
Whoa.
huge.
Yeah, and Ruler also just taking so much damage there from 1 Q out of Tal. This Vladimir well and truly online as Ruler just cannot be stepping up like that. Arrow is going to land once again, this time onto Roach, and the poke is actually becoming a big deal. They're taking down Nexus turrets. 2 inhibitors already down. Redemption to keep them all topped back up again. And this is 1 more turret, and then the Nexus is ready to be taken from Hanwha.
3 cannons, so they stick around as long as they feel that. Know that Peanut's coming up soon with Paranoia. That's when Hanwha Life do truly disengage. They're out, but they're out like bandits, Atlas. They get 2 inhibitors and a Nexus turret from that push there. Big stuff coming through from Hanwha Life, and it all started off screen. We have to see the replay there to understand who was too bold or who was really lying into a trap from Hanwha Life.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. We're so used to, on patches before this, here in 2019, this normally would be a gold lead of 8,000 or something like that. But let's have a look at this replay before we talk.
So Peanut's just like, ooh, I'd like to deny blue away from the enemy team. So this is actually a very greedy play from Peanut. He walks up with no backup, with Ruler going for red buff and Karma on the top side. Unfortunately, he never liked to finger wag, but that's the problem here, is that he's disconnected. It's not like he's getting blue for his junglers, for his laner even. It seems like he's just trying to deny a resource, but doesn't read the map appropriately, and ends up being a nice collapse from first Tempt and the rest of Hanwha Life that really sets Gen.G now maybe mortally behind.
Well, we'll see whether it is actually mortally behind because it's not represented in the gold. This is what I was talking about just before that replay came up, and we're very close to 6 items. Coming in for Ruler, Roach, close to also picking up all of the support items that he still needs to get. Ardent Sensor not there. Probably wants to get an Athenes as well to try and keep Ruler in the fight for so much longer.
And yet, I'm scared by these Sivir items. Half an item away from 6 item Sivir, so Atlas, we'll see soon. Remember, that's with a Karma. to guarantee that max damage. This is a nice rotation from Hanwha Life. TP in and trying to get this turret down.
And good flank positioning here from Tal as well, but they pull back. I actually really like this reserve play from Hanwha. They're not overextending, but they are still getting things on the map. Everything that they can guarantee, they are taking. And normally we'd be saying, oh no, you got to play more aggressively. Proactivity is the way to go. But if you can still get stuff, taking anything for free is always a good thing no matter what.
But the big issue there, the reason why I can't just really be on the Hanwha Life hype train is they got gifted 2 inhibitors, and that means that focusing on one objective is so easy to play.
Well, true, yeah.
You got the minions working for you. It's not like they took all the easy objectives and then were frustrated on the hard objectives. They kind of got given those 2 inhibitors. They walk up, though. It's about finishing off the game. And here in mid lane, we're seeing an engage.
Yeah, it's about finishing off the Vladimir as Fly's going to take a whole lot. Look at that explosion onto Peanut. Oh, my goodness. If that E had have landed from Tal, that could have just been GA already down for the Nocturne.
And they can even cheat a minion wave here. Just use the redemption. They're
engaging.
Arrow
lands onto Roach. Can they actually knock down the Karma? The answer's no. Just books it out of there with the Inspire Shield. Tal, they're trying to turn on him before he can get those flanks in. It's all inhibitors. Now bite the dust.
Back to pre-MSI meta. People don't die fast, Atlas. It's not 9.2 anymore. It's the Dunshik meta. It's the Frostmancy meta. Shields, redemptions, oh my. But look at these minions trying to end the suffering from Gen.G.
Well, that is going to be 1 spell shield on cooldown. Peanut had to use his for that trouble bubble. Tempt still trying to land this poke over his Tal. He's doing the same thing, just right into this fight. Sangyoon pull now on cooldown as Ruler in the backline. He's got the shields. bonO taken down to his GA. Fly jumping on forward, but is he going too far is the question. Down very, very low, but bonO is taken, and Gen.G, hold on.
Could be another 60 minutes, Atlas. It's Sivir. It's Sivir, and ending the game against Sivir is something that SKT against Jin Air will never let us forget. That was just over a year ago, the 94 minutes the dream. Gilios in America now, sadly, but no doubt watching it. Exactly. So we can't do too much shouting. Our voices will go hoarse because it's only the first best of 1 of the day.
Yeah, that is true. Let's have a look at this one again, though. Gen.G just playing it out pretty calmly, pretty collectively.
You just have to consider, what does Sivir have? She has huge single target bursts. Remember that compared to a year ago, the Q does full damage to the entire enemy team. She has a Karma with a laughable amount of ability power and utility next to her. She is super strong as Sivir, and now they're saying, how about a Purple Worm?
Well, the Hawkshot says that Hanwha Life knows exactly what's going on, and now they have them in a Baron pit. That's exactly what Zoe wants. Arrow is going to land. Oh! Gets the explosion kill onto Roach, but can he actually keep himself alive? Tempt gets a whole lot of burst damage over the top, and now Gen.G, have they suffered enough as Key eats the grey health, but he's going to get melted. Oh my god, Tempt just bouncing around the fight, getting the work done that he needs. Abyssal Voyage to commit to this fight as Sangyoon dives on forward. Ruler in trouble is there. Is Peanut going to be the hero? But that's just not enough right now. The beach ball lands. Not true, but Life is going to get taken down very, very low.
And see the picture-in-picture. The minions might be doing a job here as well. They're trying to stop the back. He's a TP to try to defend.
Yeah, exactly. Ruler just wants to try and get back there, but he just explodes. The Guardian Angel is going to pop him back up, but they put him straight back down. And Hanwha Life will win the game off a teleport onto the Nexus.
And that's why you keep the chase up. You can't allow for a defending TP. They get everything, and here's Tempt. He picks it up. He thrift shops that Zoe teleport, and he's going to end the game.
Yep, I didn't even think that was possible anymore, but the Nexus is going to go down, and Hanwha Life, Frostmancy, they say no and take game 1.
Frostmancy is down, but it's not out, Atlas. This mid-game was so even, and Sivir win condition was there until Tal puts it in his own hands and kills the Karma. No longer can Karma take every auto attack to get her passive movement speed and look for full damage. She lost her best friend. That friendship was only about 10 minutes at the end, but we saw how potent it could be. Not potent enough to take down Hanwha Life in game number 1.
Yep, Gen.G, they limped their way through that last team fight in their own base, and we thought that maybe, just maybe, this was their way back into it, but then over-aggressive Baron choice, some odd maneuvers, and then a great teleport from Tal. Honestly, the Vladimir played this game extraordinarily well. If he doesn't get the MVP, I'll eat my hat, Papa Smithy. I'll need to go buy a hat, but I will then eat it, I promise.
No nacho hats in Korea, so I think you're going to have to eat some potentially questionable materials.
Maybe the new KDA hat that's on sale here at Lore Park.
We're not Riot casters. No shout-outs. No. It looked pretty good in white.
I know.
But, anyway, so we're watching the players clean up here. We kind of got what we wanted, because it's Gen.G versus Hanwha Life, so we weren't thinking this was going to have huge standings implications. We were zoomed in on talk to me about Frostmancy. And we got a very Frostmancy game. You saw in the early game, the punishment for not farming wasn't there in terms of the gold. They were even on gold. But Ancient Coin Vladimir got to follow along, do his own opting into this GP10 build, and honestly prospered next to the Karma. And we noted already, it took 29 minutes for Karma to be next to Ashe to min-max out the utility Karma provides. It also wasn't Ardent Sensor Karma. It was pretty high AP build.
Yeah.
Was that the right way to go? It's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you want to kill the minions and teleport, but then you just lose too hard to Vladimir if you go Ardent Sensor. Regardless, to me, the more apparent reason for the loss was Peanut getting caught into 2 inhibitors. So actually, overall, it was less about the item timings than we might have expected and more about just one macro collapse that really took Gen.G down a peg and they just couldn't fight back.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about a lot of Gen.G's mistakes, but there was also a lot that Hanwha did manage to clean up. I mean, their last series that they had against SKT was horrible.
Yep.
Honestly, they just played awfully. But this time they came in with a plan. They understood how to execute. They always had Vladimir ready for a flank. They always were decisive with their Baron calls. So I do like this new look after a week's break for Hanwha Life, and it's a good sign moving forward.
Well, they took an early vacation, so they showed up on time. As we get to look at damage numbers, and it turns out that when you have a Karma, lots of wards, and lots of utility, you do a lot of damage as Ruler, but he wasn't really empowered. The positioning of these fights was always a bit crying. You know, you never really had an optimal fight outside of one, where it was such even numbers towards the end of the game. More of a team effort on the side of Hanwha Life, but they're going to care about one thing. They got the win. Gen.G did not, and they could potentially just end this series with a win in game number 2.
Yeah, they could just grab that one, and maybe, you know, if things don't work, we go back to an old strategy here for Gen.G where they certainly did not necessarily look so good. So guys, make sure you stick around. This could be a 3-game series, or Hanwha could take it. We'll see you after the break.